writes the prescription, and your meds shipped straight to your door. It's simple, it's smart, and it's about time. So please go to allfamilypharmacy.com/bill. Use code BILL10 to save 10%.
Looking for insurance you can truly trust? Since 1986, Bauer Insurance Agency has been protecting families and businesses across Missouri and Illinois. Owner Cindy Blanton doesn't just offer one quote. She shops all the top carriers like Progressive, Travelers, Safeco, and more to find you the best rates. Whether it's your home, auto, toys, or business, we've got you covered. Visit us at Mid-Rivers Mall in St. Peters or call 636-812-2001. Bauer Insurance Agency, the company that protects, the name you can trust.
Tony Colombo here for All Solutions Pest Control, the team Christine and I trust to protect our home. We've used multiple services at multiple homes over the years, and I can tell you from all that experience, All Solutions is second to none. If you have a pest problem of any kind, or more importantly, just want to prevent a problem, All Solutions is the team to call. Learn more and take advantage of their incredible $67 introductory offer right now at allsolutionspestcontrol.com.
If a pest-free home is your goal, call All Solutions Pest Control.
Now, the O'Reilly update brings you something you might not know. 159 years ago today, President Andrew Johnson, who took over for the assassinated President Abraham Lincoln, declared the end of the American Civil War. That proclamation ended the most violent event in U.S. history. Here is the story. Tension between the states escalated under President James Buchanan. Old Buck, as he was known, did absolutely nothing as the nation disintegrated over slavery. The war began in April 1861 when Southern troops opened fire on Fort Sumter in Charleston, South Carolina, on Union forces. 700,000 at least were killed. Another 50,000 civilians perished. Slowly, the Union Army defeated the rebels. On August 20th, 1866, President Johnson declared the end of hostilities. He wrote, quote, "The insurrection is over. Peace, order, and tranquility now exist in and throughout the whole of the United States of America." But that was not true. The Civil War decimated half the country. 4 million slaves were left without food or shelter. They had nowhere to go. 11 major cities were reduced to rubble, including Atlanta, Richmond, and Charleston. The average income for farmers in Georgia dropped to just $80 a year. To protect the rights of former slaves, Congress then ratified the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments. Millions of white Americans refused to live peaceably with freed blacks. Quickly, a group of racist veterans, the Ku Klux Klan, spread throughout the entire South. Members terrorized, often killed anyone promoting equal rights. In 1871, President U.S. Grant dispatched the Army to destroy the KKK, which it largely did. A decade later, the Supreme Court unanimously decided it was unconstitutional for the federal government to use the military to enforce local election laws. Well, that disastrous ruling led directly to Jim Crow, where millions of blacks were denied basic rights. Racism and bigotry ruled the South for another century. We chronicle the rise of the KKK in my upcoming book, Confronting Evil, out September 9th. Back after this. Are you feeling the impact of recent timeshare industry changes? Now more than ever, the costs of timeshare ownership far outweigh the benefits. My friends at Lone Star Transfer are the only company I trust to help you get out. Our listeners' positive feedback demonstrates why I've supported the company for years. For more than a decade, they have helped over 20,000 owners get out of the timeshare. Their exclusive options can help you get out faster and easier, more than any other option in the country. They are the only company that will give you a written guarantee and release you from your timeshare in a specific time frame. With an A+ rating at the Better Business Bureau, and thousands of 5-star reviews, customer service is their top priority. For free consultation and a guaranteed solution, please call 855-551-7066. That's 855-551-7066, or go to LoneStarTransfer.com. Thank you for listening to the O'Reilly Update. I am Bill O'Reilly. No spin, just facts, and always looking out for you.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
Breaking news this hour from Town Hall. I'm Keith Peters in Washington. Hurricane Aaron is strengthening again, and forecasters say it could re-intensify into a major hurricane. The storm is creeping toward the mid-Atlantic coast and churning up menacing waves that have closed beaches from the Carolinas to New York City. At a news conference, North Carolina Governor Josh Stein says local states of emergency have been declared.
Mandatory evacuations are in place for Ocracoke and Hatteras Islands. If you are under an evacuation order, take action now before it's too late. You can find shelter at the state-operated disaster shelter.
Meanwhile, on the West Coast, it's a completely different story with a heat wave affecting millions.
The dangerous heat wave has descended on much of California and the Southwest, with triple-digit temperatures expected along with higher wildfire risk. Officials have opened cooling centers in Los Angeles and warned residents to avoid strenuous outdoor activities. The peak of the heat wave will hit Arizona on Thursday and Friday. Temperatures there could possibly reach 110 degrees in the southern and western parts of the state. Mitch Thomason, Washington.
A federal judge has temporarily blocked Texas from requiring nearly a dozen public school districts across the state to post the 10 Commandments in every classroom. This decision on Wednesday follows similar legal challenges in other states. A group of families from districts that include Houston and Austin sought the injunction. Texas is the third and largest state to attempt this requirement. A federal judge has blocked a similar law in Louisiana. The issue is expected to eventually reach the U.S. Supreme Court. On Wall Street, a mixed day as the Dow was up by 16 points. The Nasdaq dropped 142, the S&P lower by 15. More on these stories at townhall.com.
When I think about God's faithfulness, one story stands above all others: his eternal commitment to Israel. For nearly 4,000 years, God has kept every promise he made to Abraham. Through slavery in Egypt, exile in Babylon, persecution across the globe, and even the Holocaust, God's covenant never wavered, not once. Today, we're witnessing the miraculous fulfillment of ancient prophecy. The Jewish people have returned home. A dead language lives again. The desert blooms just as the Bible promised. This is God's faithfulness in action. As Christians, when we support Israel, we're acknowledging that God's character never changes and his promises endure. His love remains constant, and by his faithfulness, we are unified with him and his faithfulness. I partner with the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews because they understand this sacred calling. For over 40 years, they've served Israel's most vulnerable with unwavering dedication. Let's be unified together in recognizing God's faithfulness by supporting his chosen people. To learn more, visit ifcj.org. That is IF.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. Some really nice days ahead of us. Slightly below normal, but nice warm days. We'll wake up to Thursday, 67 degrees. So a little cooler in the morning. Not quite as humid during the day either. Thursday, partly cloudy and a high of 84 degrees. Normal high is 88. And on Friday, partly cloudy and a high of 86. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Rodney and Jen Wallner and the entire Wallner home selling team at Berkshire Hathaway. Call them today at 314-810-SOLD. 314-810-SOLD.
As Tim Jones has been telling you, when life changes, you need someone you can trust. And that's Todd Sivia. At Sivia Law, we're dedicated to helping you through life's transitions, specializing in estate planning and elder law. With 7 convenient locations in the area, expert guidance is always close by. Call 833-995-WILL, 833-995-WILL, or visit CiviaLaw.com. And don't forget, the first 10 people to tell them Tim Jones sent me get a free $300 strategy session.
Hungry for the best steak you'll ever have? Head to the heart of Moscow Mills and discover Harry J's, a local landmark and family-owned steakhouse, serving up excellence since '98. From mouth-watering appetizers to decadent desserts, Harry J's has something for everyone. Enjoy our extensive bar selection while soaking in our friendly family atmosphere. Whether dine-in or carry-out, your meal is prepared to perfection. Make the drive to 300 Main Street and treat yourself to a taste of Moscow Mills' finest. Harry J's, more than a steakhouse. We're a tradition.
You talk about race relations.
This conversation has completely made me crazy.
This is complete insanity.
And I'm sick and tired of it.
1019 and 94.1.
I find it to be a conversation starter.
News Talk STL. Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
The more you remove voting from Election Day, the more opportunity you're offering for people to commit fraud.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
I think the Democrats are so short-sighted in this tactic they have now. They just cheat at any cost to win elections.
You're a lying dog-faced pony soldier. You said you were, but now you got to be honest. I'm going to be honest with you.
What are we doing wrong here?
As a former leader in the House, I think you can put your finger on it. It's called leadership. We don't have it.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
Within the past 2 hours, a contentious town hall debate wrapped up with Congressman Wesley Bell in downtown St. Louis.
When it comes to the word genocide, I kind of disagree with it because the bottom line is, can I finish? Israel was attacked by an openly genocidal terrorist group. Like, how do you get around that? We need to surge aid to make sure that people get fed in Gaza. We need to end the war. We need to return every single hostages, and Hamas has to go.
Well, there you have it. As we predicted, the leftists begin eating their own, and it's not good enough to just be a good old-fashioned liberal these days. You have to be a complete and utter whack job, apparently. Wesley Bell there taking a lot of heat at his town hall last night for daring to stand with Israel. Good afternoon, Tim Jones, Chris Arps Show, 1019, 94.1 News Talk STL, August the 20th, 2025 at 4:06 in the p.m. Woo, Wesley Bell there, Chris, on the hot seat.
That's a sad display there, and I'm ashamed that I am part of the first district of Missouri, and that's my congressman, and my fellow citizens are actually jeering at the fact that the congressman is trying to give them facts about what happened on October 7th and who the real villains are, and he's being treated like some type of outcast. I mean, when you talk about anti-Semitism is on the rise, I mean, there it is right there in its most rawest, ugliest form. And I have to give the congressman a lot of credit. Of course, he knew that it was going to be a raucous event, that paid demonstrators, AstroTurf supporters are going to be out there jeering him and hectoring him and giving him a hard time. So I gave him credit for holding that town hall.
Yes, the fact is the Israelis are one of the few nations that are actually helping people in Gaza, the Palestinian people. Chris and I saw that with our own eyes. We heard it with our own ears. It was confirmed by the actual state of reality on the ground with the assistance of the U.S., some of the other European countries. It's Israel that is keeping the lights on in Gaza. It's Israel that's providing the food into Gaza. Carl Higbee of Newsmax did an entire documentary while we were over there showing the massive line of trucks trying to get into Gaza. They've got so much food, Chris, that sometimes it goes bad and they got to throw it out, but there's more trucks coming in behind. Meanwhile, the Arab nations don't want the Palestinian people, and that's the dirty little secret nobody talks about.
You know, there has been a blockade by Israel of some of the aid coming in because they were fearful that, one, Hamas was simply stealing the aid and giving it to its own fighters or selling it on the black market. And there were concerns about those trucks and those convoys smuggling in weapons for Hamas fighters. And so, but Israel has opened up the borders. They're allowing food aid in now to feed the folks. And, you know, some of the stories that we were hearing, of course, you know, yet from the Israeli side, but a lot of the times the Hamas fighters were firing on the people themselves. So there would be a stampede and there would be a rampage. And it would, of course, they videotape it and edit it the way that they wanted it to be edited. And, of course, make Israel look bad. You know, one thing that we heard over and over and over that there's not many times in history when a person is fighting their enemy. And as you're eliminating the enemy, you're also feeding and giving aid and comfort to their people as well.
I'm also completely perplexed and confused about the fact that the left has decided to side largely with theocratic, far-right totalitarian regimes that promote women, that believe women are second-class citizens and that gays should be stoned in the streets. That's what the left in America, that's the side they're siding with.
Yeah.
It's beyond my comprehension as to why they side with the Muslim extremists, the jihadis, and not with the peace-loving people of Israel.
Yeah, and they would say that
Moment. They have not recovered yet from November 2024. Usually the losing party, whether it's Republican or Democrat, they have some kind of bounce back. They just seem to not be able to find their footing. They've gone to the courts, though, Chris. That's where they're trying to get some of their remedies, some of their grievances addressed. We'll talk to Zack Smith about the latest legal lawfare all across the country and more at 4:24 today. Zack Smith, of course, our resident legal eagle. He is a senior fellow at the Heritage Foundation. Any big legal headlines on your mind that you intend to discuss with Zack this afternoon?
Yeah, I do. One of them is there are going to be a number of sports-related cases before the Supreme Court next term, and wanted to get Zack's opinion on some of those important cases.
Excellent. I'm sure Zack will also have a thing or two to say about the takeover of D.C. by the federal government. Kash Patel announcing hundreds and hundreds of arrests, proving the point that the authorities know where the troublemakers are, just like we always talk about here in St. Louis. If they really wanted to, they could go into a couple zip codes here in the city of St. Louis and clean things up overnight, and things would be a lot better the next day. Same in D.C., I'm sure.
A small percentage of people, it's even less than the 80-20 rule that cause most of the problems. They have rap sheets that are as long as your arms.
Indeed. Chris's Corner, yes, coming at you today at 4:45.
Yeah, Elon Musk has a change of heart, and we'll go more into that at 4:45 on Chris's Corner. What is he up to? Is it politics? Is it the car business? Is it the rocket business? We'll have more at 4:45.
I saw some of those headlines. I'm glad you're going to dig a little deeper into that. I'm very interested in hear what you have to say. At 5:07, Speaker's stump speech. I kind of made some references to it in our opening comments. Title of today's Speaker's stump speech: Leftists love America last. Leftists love America last. I have examples from the international to the local and everything in between. At 5:24, Chris, we've had him on before, but it's been a long, long time. Mark Mix, president of the National Right to Work Legal Defense Foundation. What's going on in Missouri regarding the right to work, which our workers do not currently have? Well, there is a challenge brewing. Workers in Missouri and Minnesota have challenged union bosses' scheme to coerce workers into funding union political activities. You know a little bit about that from your past. Your past.
I worked at UPS and had to pay those mandatory union dues every month, and that $300 back in 1987 was a lot of money, initiation fee. So definitely know about that.
So there's apparently some litigation going on that I wasn't aware of until we heard that Mark Mix was available to speak about it on our station. So we're welcoming Mark Mix back here to News Talk STL. And at 5:45, we, of course, will tell you everything that's coming up on Larry Connors USA. Larry coming at you like he always does every Monday through Friday, 6:05 p.m. He's got some great discussion topics and awesome guests as always. And Chris will let you know about those. And in our 5:45 segment, we'll wrap up everything you need to know we may have missed, and so on and so forth. And maybe even chat a bit more with producer Joey V. Joey, are we supposed to be promoting something about Ethan's car? I saw something about Ethan's car.
What's really cool is that Ethan has a Dodge Challenger.
This is Ethan Way. This
Ethan,
is
the sales guy.
This is Ethan the elder, not Ethan the younger.
He has the coolest Dodge Challenger I've ever seen. Biggest spoiler on the back, all these little fins and stuff. And he let us wrap it with News Talk STL logos. It looks like a NASCAR now.
Did you do that?
I didn't do it.
Oh,
he talked I don't know, Jeff and Joe, Big Boss Jeff and Joe, into wrapping his car. And now he's taking it to all these car shows. So he's got his appointment with Lit on Friday night. He's going to be at Lit Cigar Lounge, one of Larry's sponsors. And then on Saturday, he's going to be at another car show. So look at newstalkstl.com and see some of the car shows. You can get a picture with it. Don't sit on it, though.
Yeah.
You know, big guy, Rick Pogue. Rick Pogue's like 7 feet tall, 7 feet wide.
Yes.
He sat on the car for some of the
no.
pictures. And I thought, Ethan Way must have been so mad or nervous. I know he didn't say anything to him, though.
Does look like a NASCAR, pace car or something.
Yeah, the big numbers that you normally see on a NASCAR. We've got 1019, 941 on there.
Mm-hmm. Chris, you a big muscle car guy? You like the big loud muscle cars from the day?
Yeah,
70s, 80s.
When I was in high school, 84, I had a 1976 Trans Am Silver, and it was a 400 4-barrel. And man, when you worked at McDonald's making $3.35 an hour and trying to keep gas in that thing, it was a challenge.
One of my Joey, Joey, this movie may be before you, but one of my favorite muscle cars in a movie was in a horror movie. And I'm not a big horror movie when it comes to like this kind of stuff. I like the aliens and the sci-fi stuff, but I went and saw this movie when I was a teenager, and it was in the Phantasm horror movie series. Do you remember those, Joey? Phantasm with Pinhead, the Pinhead dude.
Well, I remember Hellraiser. I think Phantasm had that floating orb in it. So maybe it depends on which one you're talking about.
Okay, so
I think Hellraiser did have a car, though.
Yeah. And I may be cross-referencing horror movie franchises, but there was a Barracuda, Hemacuda in one of those movies. And it looks a little bit like Ethan's car, but it's a big old Barracuda, and it had a Hemi engine in it. And I'm watching this movie as a teenager in Eureka, right?
Mm-hmm.
Eureka back in the 80s. Yeah, it still is kind of hillbilly country. But people were really big into muscle cars out there. So we go to this movie, guys, and we watch it.
Mm-hmm.
And these two guys are running around the countryside, taking on zombies and demons and ghouls. And they're running around this big, giant muscle car. The car was like a big part of the movie. And near the end, they roll the car, and it falls off a cliff, and it blows up. And nobody was sad about any of the death and destruction throughout the movie until the car died. And then the whole Eureka audience went, oh, when the car blew up.
I've been like that when you see just like, especially vintage, like cars that they've like been redone completely, and they end up getting in an accident and beat up. You're like, oh,
yes.
I know they have the money to completely redo it, but you're like, that hurts.
That was the reaction to that beauty blowing up at the end of this horror movie. So I thought I was there with one of my buddies, and we were just laughing so hard because that's what the audience was upset about.
It looks like it was Phantasm, though.
Okay.
I don't know. A guy can control a floating orb, and it kills people somehow. That's what I remember.
Indeed.
It's like a Marvel movie.
Joey, I thought about you last night up in Des Moines because my wonderful daughter, Katie, after we got her back up there and settled and all the couches unloaded and all that stuff, went to a little burger joint in downtown Des Moines with her boyfriend, Colton. And Joey, I thought of you because it was called Zombie Burger. And the whole theme of this restaurant was zombies. And they had movie references to all the stuff that you talk about all the time.
I like that. Of course, there must have been Shaun of the Dead posters up on the wall. Oh, man.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
going to look it up.
Want to eat looking at zombies. And
yeah, it was kind of weird, Chris. I was a little like, okay, I can't look at the walls right now because there's like gore all around me.
Burger tartare, just some raw meat.
But the food was excellent indeed. And back now here from Des Moines. All right, so I think we got everything out we need to tell you here in the first segment. Oh, finally, we've got that huge event coming up at Lindenwood, Hammond Institute, and News Talk STL. We are going to be treating you to a night with Steve Forbes. Yeah, Steve Forbes.
Can't wait for that.
I think that's Thursday, September the 18th, if my memory is correct on that. Looking at our website, there it is. Thursday, September the 18th, 7 to 8:30 p.m. This is a live in-person event at Lindenwood University at the Schneider Center. Huge facility, huge center. But my understanding is we are selling tickets like hotcakes because they're free. You just have to get a ticket at newstalkstl.com. Tickets are free, 7 to 8:30 p.m., Thursday, September 18th, an evening featuring Steve Forbes. That should be fantastic indeed. Chris, anything else that we need to catch up the folks on that happened today that we may have missed in this first segment?
Yeah, the Texas redistricting map passed today, and the governor is going to sign that. And California has come up with their own map as well. They have till next Tuesday to pass that and put that before the voters. And the poll came out that showed 57% of California voters approve of the redistricting changes. So that'll be something interesting to watch in the coming months.
That's interesting that the Texas map has passed, and that puts a little pressure on Missouri and Governor Kehoe because the Trump administration wants every state that can do it to do it when it will benefit Republicans. And so we may have a special session on redistricting next month in conjunction with the annual veto session, which will be Wednesday, September the 10th. Just when you thought you were safe from the legislature, they may be going back into session next month. All right, it is 4:20, nearly 4:21 in the PM. Just to remind you folks, we got Zack Smith coming up next, Chris's Corner, Speaker Stump Speech, Mark Mix of the National Right to Work Legal Defense Foundation, and telling you all about Larry Connors USA and more at 5:45. Jam-packed show here today on a wild Wednesday indeed. Let's get right to it with Zack Smith next on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. 101.9, 94.1, News Talk STL.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
Stay away. Don't you invade my home. Best off if you hang outside. Don't come in. I'll only run and hide. Who can it be now? Who can it be now? Who can it be now?
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. Some really nice days ahead of us. Slightly below normal, but nice warm days. We'll wake up to Thursday, 67 degrees. So a little cooler in the morning. Not quite as humid during the day either. Thursday, partly cloudy and a high of 84 degrees. Normal highs, 88. And on Friday, partly cloudy and a high of 86. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
News, analysis, opinion.
They were looking for the intelligence community assessment.
I don't think statute of limitations are going to impact. That report is pretty damning.
101.9 and 94.1. News Talk STL.
I have been to the Hideout on nights like the one we're going to have tonight, and it's absolutely spectacular. I would urge you, therefore, to go as well. HideoutSportsBar.com. Look them up online right now on your phone, not while you're driving. HideoutSportsBar.com. The Hideout is at 3367 High Ridge Boulevard. It's not far from anywhere. Trust me, it's merely 10 minutes from the intersection of 270 and Gravois. So you go down 270 south, you go west on Gravois. In 10 minutes, you're there. And once you're there, man, they treat you well. Delicious, mouth-watering food, live music, definitely throughout the week and especially on the weekends, and your go-to place for lots of fun, lots of family good times, and more. The Hideout features lots of new stuff on their menu. Yeah, they got the pizza ovens they put in last year that are absolutely fantastic. That pizza is divine. They've got Dave's Chili, the Sunset Dip. They've got the wraps, the crack fries. My mouth is watering thinking about it. And this is a perfect night to sit out on that gigantic sunset patio and watch that sunset go down over beautiful northern Jefferson County. They've got this sunset. Stage out there. They've got the Cattleman's Grill. I know Wednesdays are very busy at the Hideout. You really want to go there tonight. It's all rocking and rolling. They've got the train station bar. So it's 5,000 square feet outside with everything I've been describing with a beautiful sunset view. Inside, if it actually gets a little chilly tonight, since we've been in 110 degree weather, it may feel like it. You can go inside, and there's 5,000 square feet inside there. They've got 50 big screen TVs. They've got a game room. They've got awesome wait staff and so much more. Check out the Hideout, hideoutsportsbar.com. Lots of great photos. Get you in sense of the ambiance and all that. Hideout Sports Bar on Facebook, hideoutsportsbar.com. We'll definitely see you there.
Hey, your mattress called. It's tired of being tired. This Labor Day, starting September 5th, upgrade your sleep at Snooze Mattress Company in Chesterfield Valley, where your next great bed is waiting. Save up to $725 on top brands like Tempur-Pedic, Serta, Beautyrest, Stearns & Foster, and King Coil. Plus, try Dream Mapping, our technology that scans your body's pressure points and matches you to the perfect mattress. No guesswork, just real comfort, 0% easy financing, and local no-pressure service. Get in here, because if you don't snooze, you lose.
I'm Dr. TJ, owner of the Institute of Natural Health, co-owner of Optimal Nutraceuticals, and the host of Wellness One. Wellness One is designed to cut through the nonsense and provide you common sense science-based information regarding health and wellness. On the show, we discuss topics like thyroid health, gut health, hormone optimization, and many others. Our show airs Saturdays at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. and Sundays at 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. right here on Newstalk STL. And you can visit us at inhstl.com. That's inhstl.com.
Hey, Jamie Allman here for the Great Window World. You know, just over the last 20 years of Window World being in St. Louis, they've improved the look and thermal efficiency of more than 76,000 customers in St. Louis. Plus, Window World windows come with a lifetime warranty that covers all parts, glass breakage, and labor. And now Window World is now offering 36 months, same as cash financing, with approved credit. Call them today at 314-993-1800, 314-993-1800.
News Talk STL. This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com. You're listening to Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
One by one. The Texas 10 Commandments law gets halted in court. A judge ruled today that Texas cannot require public schools to display the 10 Commandments in every classroom, making it the third such state law to be blocked in court. A group of North Texas families and faith leaders were asking for the injunction, which was supposed to go into effect on September 1st. They said it violates the First Amendment protections.
426 on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show. And Tim, I think we have another case that is barreling towards the Supreme Court, and a case that's dealing with religious freedom and expression.
We have had a long litany of these cases, haven't we, over the last many years? And so far, I think the Supreme Court has come down on a side that we would approve of. We'll see about this next one.
I think so too. Let's see what our next guest thinks about this case and many others.
It's all perfectly legal.
You are out of order. You're out of order. You're out of order. The whole trial is out of order.
Zack Smith, legal fellow with the Heritage Foundation.
You know, I ask you a lot of predictions. Can you predict what the Supreme Court probably will do with this action? Zack, happy hump day, my friend. How are you?
I am doing well and glad you guys made it back from Israel safe and sound.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you for doing the show with us so late at night there. So appreciate it. Zack, you heard that case. We heard that that clip there about that case in Texas about the 10 Commandments being displayed in a schoolhouse. I want to ask you a question from this side. You know, a lot of the proponents of this will say there's a such thing, or advocates or people against this will say that this is a separation of church and state issue, and that displaying the Judeo-Christian 10 Commandments is advocating for a particular religion. What's the defense against that accusation?
Well, look, I think we have to put this in context, Chris. Obviously, essentially the argument that those opposed to this law have made is that it violates the First Amendment's Establishment Clause, that this would essentially be the state establishing a religion. Now, I think there are problems with that argument. And if you look at how the Supreme Court has dealt with this issue previously, essentially they've said that as long as religious displays are presented in a historical type context, if there are other monuments around, then those types of displays can remain. So, for example, in Texas, on the state capitol there was the 10 Commandments that was challenged. The Supreme Court allowed it to stay because it was part of kind of other displays of other religious, other statutory items on the Capitol grounds there. There was a cross right outside of Washington, D.C. and Blandensburg, Maryland. The Supreme Court allowed that to stay because it was a war memorial, and the court said the historical context doesn't mean it's necessarily there for religious purposes. The same thing for either crosses or Stars of David, often found in military cemeteries. That same rationale has applied. Now, in this particular case, we'll have to wait and see what the Supreme Court decides to do if it takes up this case, whether it will kind of apply that same historical analogy, historical type test framework. But I think the broader implication, Chris, for far too long, courts have misread the First Amendment's Establishment Clause. They said that it's been in tension with the Free Exercise Clause, that the two clauses work at odds. And I think that couldn't be further from the truth. I think if you go back and look at the original understanding of both the Free Exercise and Establishment Clause, the framers of the Constitution always intended them to work in tandem. And the framers of the Constitution never intended for religion to be barred from public life.
Yeah, Zach, I said in your lead-in that this litany of cases like this over the last few years have largely been decided along the lines of issues that us and our listeners would approve of. But that's almost beside the point, Zach. I mean, that's great that we like them, like the results, but Zach, they're the right results, right? To your point, the left and the liberal judicial sentiment has always been that freedom. They ignore some prepositions, don't they, Zach? It's freedom of religion, not from religion. And just because the state is not supposed to establish a religion doesn't mean we're supposed to discriminate against having any religion anywhere in public life, right?
Well, and go back and look at what the framers of the Constitution themselves did. Even Thomas Jefferson, who I think could arguably be described as one of the less religious framers of the founding fathers, wasn't a framer of the Constitution, but certainly a founding father, was aware of what was going on at the time. He routinely attended religious services in the newly built Capitol there in Washington, D.C., routinely spoke about religion and public life at public events. And so this idea that there should be a wall of separation between church and state, that is one of the fundamental errors that's been introduced into our First Amendment case law, into our thinking about the role of religion in society and governmental actions, and really came about in the mid-20th century because of misinterpretation, something Thomas Jefferson himself said at one point. And so I think there is a fundamental rethinking happening now, and I'm hopeful the justices will reach the right decision in this case, if and when it makes its way to the Supreme Court.
Speaking with Zack Smith, Senior Legal Fellow at the Heritage Foundation. Last Thursday, Zack, the Supreme Court allowed Mississippi to enforce a state law that requires the nation's largest social media companies to verify the age of their users and obtain parental consent for minors. How significant is this?
Well, Chris, I think this goes into a case we talked about earlier where obviously Texas imposed state age verification laws for pornographic websites. And so this is kind of a continuation of that. Obviously, hopefully not all of the content on those social media websites are pornographic in nature, although I think some content would arguably be inappropriate for minor children. And so this is part of the ongoing debate, I think, that we're seeing between whether and what restrictions or requirements states can require of social media companies before they're allowed to do business in their states.
Zach, I'm sure you're watching very closely what's going on regarding the hoped-for cleanup of the District of Columbia. Zach, I've never seen the left go more insane. They're saying these are, of course, Nazi-esque tactics, that we're being ruled by a totalitarian in the White House. So I guess, Zach, they'd like the opposite to be true. They'd like their Democrat-run cities full of their Democrat progressive policies to continue to literally, in many cases, burn these cities to the ground. Donald Trump and Republicans kindly are saving them from themselves, it appears. What say you?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Look, I don't understand it. I do policy, not politics, but it certainly seems like many on the left are taking the 20 side of 80-20 issues, meaning that 80% of Americans are in favor of safe cities. Not really sure who those other 20% are, but this is a recurring problem time and time again. And look, what has shocked me in particular, Tim, is not just that kind of the overheated rhetoric about Donald Trump's actions, which, by the way, are perfectly legitimate and legal because of the District of Columbia's unique status and for other reasons as well. But what stood out to me is kind of the intentional skewing of the crime statistics and the facts. We had many on the left claiming that violent crime in the District of Columbia was at a 30-year low. Now, just stop and think about that. It's one thing to say crime might be slightly down from all-time highs, which it likely is, although it's still much higher than it was even a decade ago. But to say it's at a 30-year low is just frankly disingenuous. And so I looked into where that statistic came from. It was actually put out by the Biden Justice Department in January of this year, shortly before the Biden DOJ officials left office. But as I think we've talked about before, there are very real reasons to question the validity of some of those statistics that were relied on. There's an investigation happening right now into whether DC officials manipulated the crime statistics. DC police union officials said that they would routinely have commanders or other high-ranking officials show up to the scenes of violent crimes and order the responding officers to take reports for lower-level offenses, basically making it look like violent crime was lower than it actually was. And then, of course, stop and think about it. In many instances, victims of violent crimes likely didn't report it, unfortunately, because they suspected, rightly in too many cases, that either an arrest wouldn't take place or even if an arrest took place, that the offender really wouldn't suffer any consequences at the end of the day.
Zach, the Mississippi case that I mentioned in my last question was on the emergency docket, and doing research for your appearance, I'm noticing that the liberals are having a absolute conniption fit on the emergency docket. The Hill had a headline that said Trump notches winning streak in Supreme Court emergency docket deluge. Tell us what the emergency docket is and how it is helping President Trump with his agenda.
Chris, I think you are the star unofficial legal pupil of the show.
Zach, I owe you money.
I'm out. No, you can pay up later. It's fine. We'll settle up. But I was just going to say, I'm out of gold stars because I have to give you kudos, Chris. You referred to it as the emergency docket. That's what it is. It's something every court in the country has. It's completely common. But over the past several years, and again, I think we talked about this, particularly last term, many on the left have tried to paint it as something nefarious. They said it's the shadow docket, where essentially the justices are working out of sight, issuing these nefarious opinions. That's not what's happening at all. This is completely standard stuff. So kudos to you for calling it the emergency docket instead of the nefarious sounding shadow docket. But yeah, you're right. Look, many on the left are apoplectic about this, particularly several left-leaning law professors. And again, they're trying to paint it as something nefarious that's happening that the justices are doing here. But essentially, all the justices are saying in many of these instances is that the law can continue to take effect, that the kind of the factors you consider when deciding whether to issue an injunction while litigation is going on, that basically those factors weren't met. And I think it's appropriate because the factors, the threshold to get an injunction issued while litigation is ongoing is fairly high, and it's supposed to be fairly high. And I think what we've seen over the past several years are judges kind of lowering that threshold, kind of handing out injunctions almost like candy in some instances. And so I think what you're seeing a little bit is the justices pushing back on that, saying, look, at the end of the day, we're reserving judgment. We may ultimately rule against these statutes or rule against the person seeking this emergency relief. But at least for now, these very high thresholds have not been met.
Zach, the beloved home goods store, Bed Bath & Beyond, went through a bankruptcy proceeding and is now back because some investors decided to buy whatever assets were out there and try to launch this beloved brand. It's called Beyond Inc. now. Zach, they made a big announcement today about where they would not reopen stores. I know you've been covering a lot of this over the last few months and years. They are not going to open or operate any stores in the entire state of California, where I'm assuming they used to have a lot of these, citing the state's regulatory and financial climate. Zach, we could probably throw in the criminal climate as well. And the new executive chairman of Bed Bath & Beyond, Marcus Lemonis, said, this decision isn't about politics. It's about reality. Well, Zach, since it's not about politics, you can comment on it. What say you as to this decision? It's one of many, isn't it, from the once mighty Golden State?
It absolutely is. And, I didn't realize Marcus Lemonis was the chairman of this new entity now. Obviously, he came to fame as he had a television show several years ago called The Prophet that was on fairly regularly on CNBC and some other networks. But I will say, Marcus Lemonis, he's also been in the news recently because he flies very large American flags at many Camping World locations.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
And it's gotten a lot of pushback for that. And so I appreciate him being willing to fly the American flag prominently. But look, this decision is not surprising. I think anyone who has common sense understands that California, unfortunately, despite its many built-in advantages, great weather, great resources, great location, is not friendly to businesses. And so I think this is not news. I will say the other thing that struck me as odd in some respects, this isn't necessarily a legal take, I guess, but I've been seeing Gavin Newsom's very odd Twitter feed recently. Gavin Newsom's press room, I guess, which is, supposed to be mocking Donald Trump and some of his Twitter habits. Personally, I don't find it very funny. I thought it was odd that instead of responding and engaging to kind of the criticisms and concerns that were raised, they essentially chose to mock. Marcus Lemonis chose to mock Bed Bath & Beyond and basically insult them, instead of trying to figure out how they could get business into California. And so that just struck me as a very odd and very unfortunate turn of events.
And finally, Zach, we're hearing, of course, a lot about congressional redistricting in Texas and in California, but also recently, 4 hours ago, the Mississippi Supreme Court said that a state map violates the Voting Rights Act, and Alabama, I think Alabama Supreme Court said that the state must independently draw congressional maps that create a second Black majority district. Tell us what you know about these two cases. I know the one case was only 4 hours old, the Mississippi case.
I feel like I should listen to a news talk radio station to get the latest breaking news. And so I haven't had a chance to look at that Mississippi case. Now, the Alabama case, I double-checked me, Chris, but I think it may have actually been a federal district court that required that. But again, I think all of that may be in some level of flux, depending on what the Supreme Court does with the Louisiana versus Calais case. It's a case out of Louisiana where basically Louisiana was told they had to draw a second majority minority district. Several challengers challenged that, saying that states shouldn't be allowed to consider race in drawing districts. I think that's the right position. But the Supreme Court said they were going to rehear arguments in that case this upcoming term. And I suspect, depending on what the court does in that case in particular, will impact what many of these states are planning to do as well.
All right. That is, of course, Zack Smith. He is our senior legal fellow at the Heritage Foundation. Zach, thank you again for your wisdom, sir, and we look forward to speaking with you again next Wednesday.
Thanks for having me on the show. Great talking with you guys.
Thank you so much. 442, Tim, Chris's Corner. Elon Musk has had a change of heart, and we'll talk more about that on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show on 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL.
Watch us on our live stream using Rumble, Facebook, and Twitter. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. Some really nice days ahead of us. Slightly below normal, but nice warm days. We'll wake up to Thursday, 67 degrees. So a little cooler in the morning. Not quite as humid during the day either. Thursday, partly cloudy and a high of 84 degrees. Normal high is 88. And on Friday, partly cloudy and a high of 86. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
So many ways to listen to News Talk STL.
Join the conversation. All you have to do is say,
Hey Alexa, play News Talk STL.
Welcome to News Talk STL, conservative talk radio for St. Louis.
Hey, Chris Arps here to tell you about my dentist, Dr. Alan Leake. I got to tell you, I absolutely love the guy. When I go into his office, it's like a big family. His dental assistants, they all love him. The patients, they all love him. They've been going to him for years, laughing and joking. It's just a fun place to go to, a place that is not normally a fun place. And also, what I like about it, too, it's a family atmosphere. Dr. Andrew Link, his son, practices with him over at Dental Link. You know, the Dental Link is a state-of-the-art facility. They offer a full range of dental services, including cosmetic and implant dentistry, and I can attest to that personally. You know, I've had some dental implants. They've worked wonders for me. I can smile. I don't have to be ashamed of any missing teeth, and they might be the solution for you as well. They're less invasive, they're less painful, and your recovery time is much shorter than with older traditional implants. And best of all, the cost to you is much less than with older, more traditional dental implants. You know, the Dental Link has a convenient location in Baldwin on Manchester. Give them a call today if you're interested in any general dentistry or dental implants. Dr. Alan Link is one of the pioneers of that technique. You can call them at 636-496-8584 or visit them online at thedentallink.com.
Hey, it's Vic Porcelli here with our great friend Chris Cooper from Serenity Wealth Management. Hi, Chris. How are you, Vic? I don't want to put anybody else down, but when you go up and visit you at Serenity Wealth, your place looks like home.
So a lot of financial advisory offices, they have, the big mahogany desk or the big marble entryways and things like that. The stock market channel on the TV when you walk in the door, right? That doesn't really drive a good conversation. Good financial guidance and advice starts with a good conversation. People are nervous. People are afraid to talk about finances, right? And so you can see a little standoffish. Well, my objective is to try to have a good casual conversation. By having those conversations about life, goals, objectives, it's what makes me understand what our financials are supposed to fund.
So if somebody does want to have a good conversation, how do they do that? How do they find you?
Our website is the best way to do that because you can get all the information you need, understand where we are, get a little bit more information, all that. SerenityWealthNow.com.
Reach out to Chris and Stacy today at SerenityWealthNow.com.
Investment advice offered through Fortis Capital Advisors, LLC.
Connor Roofing. You can count on Connor. Connor Roofing is now a two-time winner of the National Best of the Best Award for customer satisfaction for roofing, storm damage restoration, siding, gutters, both residential and commercial. Please visit ConnorRoofing.com for an estimate. And remember, you can count on Connor.
This is Tony Colombo, and my favorite Capriotti sandwich is the cheesesteak made with American Wagyu beef from Snake River Farms, and you have to include a side of their amazing fries. I love Capriotti's, and you will too.
Open 9 to 9 daily on Manchester at McKnight in Rock Hill.
On the next, Larry Connors, USA.
With Andrew Bailey going to the FBI, are we going to see a shakeup involving Bongino Patel?
Larry Connors, USA. Now, weeknights 6 until 8 on News Talk STL. This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com. You're listening to Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
Vice President J.D. Vance and Pete Hegseth are about to speak at Union Station thanking the National Guard troops. Do you think placing the troops at major transit hubs or monuments is the most strategic deployment instead of, say, high crime areas?
I don't think the National Guard should be used for law enforcement. And I think calling men and women from their homes and their jobs and their families, they have to be used on their, on mission specific items that benefit the nation. I don't think you have an armed militia in the nation's capital.
448 on the Tim Jones and Chris Arp show. Tim, one of the arguments that the opponents of this are using is that they're saying, take Ohio, for instance. The Ohio governor has sent National Guard troops. There are cities in Ohio that have a higher murder and crime per capita rate than Washington, D.C. Why are you sending National Guard troops to Washington, D.C. And, my argument would be, okay, maybe is a factual case, but this is the nation's capital. This is the jewel of our nation. This is where diplomats and people from all over the world come and visit. I think the last thing we need is homeless people all around the nation's capital, pooping all everywhere, syringes and out, people camping out. I mean, that's one thing that I've always noticed when I've gone to D.C., and I don't know if you have too. I mean, D.C. is a very clean city because they literally have people, that's their jobs all day, is going around picking up trash. But there are homeless everywhere in D.C.
And we see it, and it mars. Look, I feel despite what a horrible right-wing conservative I am, I'm also a lifelong Catholic, and I was trained by the Jesuits, and so I do actually have a human reaction when I see homeless people.
Yeah.
I'm sad. I'm very sad. I want to help them. We're not helping them, though, Chris, by allowing them to basically live in their own filth on the streets of D.C.
Yeah, and the sad fact is, and you hear this all the time when they're out doing the winter patrols and it's freezing outside here in St. Louis, the Reverend Larry Rice.
Yes.
A lot of these people don't want to go into shelters
That's
because
correct.
they feel they are more dangerous than living out on the street. And they have gotten used to that particular lifestyle. They love the freedom and being able to come and go when they want. They're not being able to do that at a shelter. You have to be in by a certain time. And so they willingly choose to live on the street. And I know that is something that's very hard for our liberal-minded listeners to accept that, but some people actually want to live like that. And I'm not saying that trying to be hard-hearted or anything. That's a fact.
Yeah, they have a fear factor there. And we should also remind everyone that the large majority of homeless, they have an unusual percentage, have serious mental health issues.
Yeah.
And we should be providing them as much help as, and again, we're not helping them with their mental health issues by allowing them to live on the street, freeze to death, and starve.
I agree. No surprise here, Tim. A Washington Post poll shows that D.C. residents, which is an overwhelmingly blue city, oppose Trump's takeover of the D.C. police. 65% don't believe the operation will make the city safer. About 8 in 10 oppose Trump's executive order to federalize law enforcement. And another D.C. related story, the U.S. Marshal Service has announced it's offering cash tips that lead to arrests in D.C. as part of the crime crackdown. So Trump is not messing around there in D.C. All right. We teased that Elon has had a change of heart. Let's talk about it next in the corner.
Chris.
And if you don't know, now you know.
And now, Chris's Corner.
Well, remember the big feud between President Trump and Elon? They made up, didn't make up. Elon was going to start his own party. It was really getting ugly there. I said for the record that I was not exactly sure that the feud was real. A lot of Elon's investors, of course, were upset that he was spending so much time away from the companies and not running them. And his brand was being tarnished by being associated with Donald Trump and this government, that they wanted him to stay focused. Okay, well, Elon Musk, according to the Wall Street Journal, is quietly pumping the brakes on his plan to start a political party. That's according to people with knowledge of his plans. He's told allies he wants to focus his attention on his companies and is reluctant, this is smart, to alienate powerful Republicans by starting a third party that could siphon off GOP voters. Also within this Wall Street Journal article is that Elon Musk signaled that he will support Vance in 2028. He's going to raise money for him and the whole nine. Now, I wonder how close does this decision come to the fact, I don't even remember, about a couple of weeks ago, the Tesla board awarded Elon something like $85 billion in stock options, but he had to stay for like 4 years and stay focused on the company and running it. So I wonder if 85 billion or whatever it was hanging over your head, stay focused, had anything to do with him getting rid of this party that he wanted to raid. Here's an interesting story of Trump derangement syndrome. I haven't heard too many of these stories lately. A Indiana woman, she was arrested after she wrote on social media that, quote, she was willing to sacrificially kill the president of the United States by disemboweling him and cutting off his trachea.
What?
Yes, that woman was arrested.
It's very specific.
Exactly. You usually think about, I'm going to cut his head off or I'm going to stab him. It's like, no, I want to cut off his trachea.
Oh, that's painful.
Yeah, it is. It is. And there's a park ranger who draped a massive transgender flag from the El Capitan Rock Formation in Yosemite National Park. He's been a big glorified figure. He was fired recently, Tim, which is a grand thing. What does who someone sleeps with and what gender they identify with, why does that need to be flown over a national monument? I don't know. And talked a little bit about this yesterday. Reuters Ipsos poll showed that the Donald Trump's approval with Latinos is dropping. Another poll, Pew Research and The Economist, show him at 27 and 28%. But here's something that I take when I read within these polls. Yes, his support is dropping among Latinos and among Latino men who were the difference for him last year. But the reasons that they're giving is cost of living. And, as what Carville always said, it's the economy, stupid.
Yes.
Look, if the economy turns around and is perceived like that by the people of the United States, I think Trump will gain the support of those voters back. I think it's a strictly an economics issue. It's not a question of we don't like Donald Trump anymore or we don't like Republicans. I think, the sway of the media, of course, always talking about a down economy, and prices have gone up under Biden's watch, and his policies are the ones that created it, and the president is taking hit by that. So I'm not worried about that drop in support because it's based on economic issues, not any type of personal issues. And a good thing, Tim, the AARP, have you do you get information from them, or have you opted out of? I've never gotten anything.
Maybe I opted out because I haven't gotten anything in a long time.
I'm 59. They start sending you this stuff at 50. I have never gotten any AARP stuff. I've always thought that was wrong. But they've announced that they warned they'll have to furlough staffers if the Labor Department didn't start releasing hundreds of millions of dollars for job training for low-income seniors that it froze earlier in the summer. So I'm kind of happy about that, to see AARP having to lay off people because we know they're a very, very left-wing group. They're the ones that helped bring us Obamacare. Very, very big support of that because, of course, they went into the insurance business and got a little cut of the Obamacare insurance money. So AARP is going to have to start laying off people because they won't be on the government teat. T-E-E-T, teat. And that is Chris's Connor.
I joined AMAC.
Yeah.
I joined AMAC, the Association of Mature American Citizens.
That's the conservative version of the AARP. I've never received anything from them. I'm not saying I want to, so that's a good thing. All right, Tim, Chris's Speaker Stump speech at 5:07.
We're going to talk about the fact that it appears from everything they do and say, leftists love to have America last.
And then we'll speak again with Mark Mix. He's president of the National Right to Work Legal Defense Fund. Talk about Minnesota, Missouri, challenging union bosses' schemes. You're listening to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show on 1019 94.1 News Talk STL.
Is your portfolio prepared for the biggest risks facing investors today? Hi, it's Tim Jones. High inflation and a rapidly changing economy may impact your investments. If you haven't made appropriate changes, your portfolio may not be positioned to address some of the biggest risks in today's economy. That means it's time to request your free portfolio review from the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel. You can hear their latest views on the markets and investing during On the Money, hosted by Stifel financial advisors Bob Stockdale and Eric Robert, every Saturday morning at 9 a.m. on News Talk STL 101.9. They can help you get organized, guide you through critical retirement decisions, and create a portfolio designed around your needs. To schedule your free portfolio review, go to clearpathinvesting.com. That's clearpathinvesting.com, or call 636-695-2650. That's clearpathinvesting.com, 636-695-2650. Stifel Nicholas and Company Incorporated, member SIPC and NYSE.
To have a roof over your head, a nice roof over your head, is very important.
That's Rick talking about his experience with Rhino Shield ceramic coating.
We got Rhino Shield 18 years ago, and they were very cooperative on getting us the right paint. They were in and out and done in no time. Once it was finished, looked great. We were very happy with it.
The main reason Rick called Rhino Shield is because it's backed by a 25-year transferable warranty.
We've watched a lot of people get their house painted 3 or 4 times, and we haven't had to do any of it. I don't know about you guys, but I don't want to have to paint it every 5-7 years.
Take a tip from Rick and put down the paintbrush and call Rhino Shield for your free evaluation. 877-25-RHINO. 877-25-RHINO. Or visit 877-25rhino.com.
We got Rhino Shield 18 years ago. Financially makes sense, especially if it's going to last like this did. Still looks great.
Call now. 877-25-RHINO or 877-25rhino.com.
Don't paint, don't Rhino, go Rhino Shield. Never paint your house again. Rhino Shield.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefontaine, KNVS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
Breaking news this hour from Town Hall. I'm Keith Peters in Washington. Ukraine's president says the latest Russian airstrikes show the need for strong security guarantees. White House correspondent Greg Clugston reports.
As Russia continues to carry out missile and drone strikes against Ukraine, President Zelensky said the attacks only confirm the need for pressure on Moscow. He wants new sanctions and tariffs until diplomacy works to its full potential. As President Trump tries to arrange a face-to-face meeting between the Russian and Ukrainian presidents, NATO defense chiefs are discussing possible future security guarantees they hope could lead to a peace agreement. Greg Clugston, the White House.
Israel plans to activate reservists to serve in Gaza. Correspondent Mimi Montgomery reports.
An Israeli military official says the country's top generals have approved plans to call up some 50,000 reservists to begin a new phase of operations in Gaza's densely populated areas. According to the official, they will be active in parts of Gaza City where troops have not yet operated and where Hamas is still present. It's unclear when the new operations will begin, but the official says the reservists will be called up in the coming weeks, doubling the number of active reservists to 120,000. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says the objective of the Gaza expansion is to secure the release of the remaining hostages and to ensure that Hamas cannot threaten Israel again. I'm Mimi Montgomery.
A dangerous heat wave has descended on much of California and the U.S. Southwest, with triple-digit temperatures expected along with a higher risk of wildfires. Officials opened cooling centers this week in Los Angeles and warned residents to avoid strenuous outdoor activities. On Wall Street, the Dow up by 16 points, but the Nasdaq lower by 142.
This is Dennis Prager for AmFed Coin and Bullion. There's something about the feel of a gold coin in your hand and the way the light reflects off its intricate details that has always captivated me. Nick Grovich, AmFed's owner, turned that same passion into his livelihood. Nick began collecting coins as a teen, and that interest grew into a nationally respected business offering only the finest quality coins at the most competitive prices. But the truth is that although Nick is a rare coin dealer, he doesn't believe in rare coins. Rare coins do not make sound investments, but they do make dealers a lot of money. See, that's part of what I respect about him. AmFed specializes in buying non-performing numismatic coins and turning them into gold or silver investments that provide liquidity and perform competitively against the market. Whether you're buying or selling, call 800-221-7694. That's 800-221-7694. AmericanFederal.com.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. Some really nice days ahead of us. Slightly below normal, but nice warm days. We'll wake up to Thursday, 67 degrees. So a little cooler in the morning. Not quite as humid during the day either. Thursday, partly cloudy and a high of 84 degrees. Normal highs, 88. And on Friday, partly cloudy and a high of 86. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Stifel, serving investors for over 130 years. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Beat the summer heat with Johnson Heating and Cooling, your trusted local family business. We specialize in residential air conditioning service, furnace and AC replacement, new construction, finished basements, room additions, and energy-efficient geothermal systems. At Johnson Heating and Cooling, our motto is simple. We treat our customers like we want to be treated, with complete transparency and honesty. Call 636-332-4141. That's 636-332-4141.
From home improvement to replacement, do-it-yourself electrical projects can be shocking. That's where Grasser Electric can help. They've been lighting up St. Louis for years. From ceiling fans and dimmer switches to repair or replacing your electric. No job is too big or too small for your home or business. Grasser Electric will even install emergency backup generators. So call Grasser Electric today before the sparks start to fly. 636-441-5200 or go to grasserelectric.com.
If you have a phone, you have a radio.
Yes, I listen on my phone.
Download the all-new News Talk STL app.
Love the all-new News Talk STL app.
It is awesome.
And listen anytime.
Love the News Talk STL app.
Anywhere. Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
The more you remove voting from Election Day, the more opportunity you're offering for people to commit fraud.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
I think the Democrats are so short-sighted in this tactic they have now to just cheat at any cost to win elections.
You're a lying dog-faced pony soldier. You said you were, but now you got to be honest. I'm going to be honest with you.
What are we doing wrong here? As a former leader in the House, I think you can put your finger on it. It's called leadership. We don't have it.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
We're going to come and say thank you to the National Guards folks, to the cops for actually keeping this place safe. If you look at what's happened in Washington, D.C. in just the past 9 days, we've seen a 35% reduction in violent crime. We've seen over a 50% reduction in robberies. We're seeing really substantial effects because these guys are busting their ass. So I want to come here, highlight what they're doing, say thank you in person, obviously pass out a few burgers, but most of all, just to invest in the American people. Look, we don't have to live like this.
Yeah, J.D. Vance telling Americans, you don't have to live with lawlessness, especially and even due to the fact of the leaders that you have elected who have made all these promises to you to keep you safe, and it's their own policies that are causing the downfall of these big urban blue cities. Chris, it's like it's why we always say, we jokingly say, but it has a lot of validity and truth. In fact, liberalism is a mental disorder.
It's a mental disorder, and it's very dangerous because it can get you killed. The cities that are the most violent, Chicago, New York, places like that, it's very hard. Washington, D.C., very hard, if almost impossible for the citizens to have guns and to be able to defend themselves when, of course, the criminals have them. And the age-old argument that they use, of course, is more guns doesn't solve the problem. Mm-hmm. Well, if it comes between me and a thug, I'd rather have a gun in my hand instead of some lint in my pocket.
Yeah. DC, Chicago, Detroit, St. Louis, Memphis, we can go down the line. These are all big blue cities run by Democrats. They can and they have passed all the gun laws they want. As we've always discussed, it's not the inanimate object. It's a culture problem. And these leftists are such lunatics. Chris, they'd rather yell and scream about Donald Trump, the totalitarian tyrant, and what an authoritarian dictator he is, and completely ignore when you ask them, well, why aren't you doing something about the lawlessness? They'd rather just yell and scream about Donald Trump, who's trying to literally solve the problem, protect them from themselves.
Yeah, and they'll talk about social issues, the past, that the disadvantage, bad schools, and all of that. When that is factors into the problem, but that's going to be something that's going to take a long time to solve. In the meantime, we need to be safe from lawlessness.
Mm-hmm. We do indeed. J.D. Vance there and Kash Patel, Donald Trump, the whole gang. They're trying to. It's amazing.
Andrew Bailey
now. They're literally trying to save Democrats from Democrat progressive policies. And all the Democrats can say, instead of saying thank you very much, is what a horrible totalitarian tyrant you are. It's really amazing. I'm going to discuss that a little bit further in today's Speaker Stump Speech. At 5:24, we've got Mark Mix, president of the National Right to Work Legal Defense Foundation. Why are we speaking with Mark today about union versus right to work issues? Well, apparently there's some ongoing litigation that's been filed in Missouri and Minnesota challenging the union bosses. And this is the problem with unions. It's the bosses. It's not the rank and file. Because most of the rank and file, Chris, as we know, are voting more and more Republican. The problem is their bosses are spending their money, the workers' money, 99.9% of the time on Democrats and left-wing causes.
Yeah.
So there's disconnect there.
And as I've read what we're going to talk to Mark about, the Democrat or the union bosses have come up with a scheme that even if you want to opt out, you can't. Or they make it you have to jump through loopholes. And we'll talk to Mark Mix about that at 5:24.
So less freedom of choice than even we thought.
Yeah, it's the appearance of freedom of choice, but not really.
Exactly, indeed. So we'll talk to Mark about that and more at 5:24 and what's going on in Missouri and Minnesota and how workers are actually the ones fighting back. 5:45. We'll talk to ourselves. We'll talk about everything we may have missed you need to know, and we'll prepare you, of course, for the great, as we say, LaCusa, Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA every night, beginning right after 6 p.m. He's got 1, 2, 3 awesome topics that we're going to tease for you at 5:45. Not going to tell you what they are now. Chris is going to tell you what they are at 5:45.
One of the things, though, I'm going to get Joey involved in this is I talked about it on Chris's Corner a week or so ago, how the ESPN has bought the NFL Network. Well, ESPN has bought another major sports network as well. So they're trying to gobble them all up. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I've worked for them as well.
Ah, okay. Well, you can give us some hands-on experience on it.
Joey, I'm thinking a lot about you, Joey. There's a lot of references I'm running into that are reminding me of you. Today, Joey, I think I forwarded this to you. I get a little, I know Chris gets a million too. Chris and I get a lot of email newsletters every day. And I get this really cool one from a buddy of mine, Charlie Giroux. He kind of does what Chris and I do over in Pennsylvania. He does a lot of podcasting and radio. I know he does some TV, and he puts out this little newsletter every day with 3 topics. That's why I love it. It's like boom, boom, boom. And he's got a great quote at the top. And at the bottom, he always has Today in History. And Today in History references a famous movie that was very popular many years ago. And it was based on a true story. I don't know how they know this, Chris. Today in 480 BC.
Wow.
Yeah. How did they? Okay, they tracked 2,500 years.
They've got
somehow.
a Rain Man somewhere that can figure out the dates.
You know those calendars,
Yeah.
it's like this day in history. This would be a giant one. Today in 480 BC, I don't know if I'm going to pronounce this right. The Battle of Thermopylae, we'll go with that. The Battle of Thermopylae, one of history's most famous last stands, took place. 7,000 warriors from an alliance of Greek states led by Leonidas I blocked the pass of Thermopylae.
Oh, that was a movie.
For a week. They did this for a week against an invading Persian army under Xerxes I, estimated at 120 to 300,000 strong. Do you know the name of the movie? Remember it?
Spartan?
You got it.
The Spartan? I don't know.
It was well, they were Spartans, right? What was it called?
300?
300.
That's what I thought. 300.
That's it. 300.
Yeah, 300.
Featuring the Spartans.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they got sold out because some guy got disrespected.
Yes.
He told them the secret entryway to get to them.
Yes.
Still
indeed.
can't get over that. Boy.
Joey, do you like that movie? Do you like 300?
I've never seen 300.
You haven't?
I know. Isn't that a shame?
Even I've seen it, Joey.
It's a good movie.
It's probably Zack Snyder's most appreciated film because he's made some stinkers out there. He's getting a lot of hate for his Superman movies lately.
Yeah.
So I should go back and watch 300. I love
Good
Watchmen.
movie.
That's another movie that he did. But yeah, that famous kick, right? That everyone talks about where he's kicking them off the cliff. I got to check that out.
It's cool, Joey. The cinematography is fantastic. And there's an actress in there. I'm not good at this. My wife is. My wife can see people. Suzanne can see people in movies and be like, yeah, that's so-and-so from that other movie. And from didn't you say Becky kind of does that too?
Yeah.
From this other movie and a movie from 12 years ago. Well, I recognized it. I recognized her. The wife of Leonidas She's got dark hair, but you know who it is? She's blonde in Game of Thrones. It's the evil the queen
Cersei.
Cersei.
Yeah.
Cersei. Cersei is in 300, and she's Leonidas's wife, but she's the queen. But you don't recognize her at first because she's got her original hair.
I think I saw. I knew that.
Yeah.
Saw that. Yeah.
I was very proud of myself. I was like, I never get that stuff right, but I was like, that's Cersei. Indeed. All right. Hey, without further ado, we're going to do Speaker Stump Speech, and then we're going to get to Mark Mix. So JD Vance there talks about how they're cleaning up DC, they're fixing things, it's getting all better. I've got the Democrat response, and that is the subject of today's Speaker Stump Speech. Leftists love for America to be last.
Listen to me, listen to me.
I'm very consistent. I'm a very stable genius.
It's time for the Speaker's Stump Speech, sponsored by Hanson's Tree Service at hansonstree.com.
All right, so this is this is one of, I don't know if this is the Democrat response, but this is one of the major Democrats here. This is the response. So JD Vance says, hey, we're coming in, we're cleaning things up, we're fixing things. We Republicans are going to try to do everything we can to save you Democrats from your Democrat leaders. And here's what one of the Democrats says in response to that.
But do you think that your colleagues in the Senate Democrats, should refuse to fund the government? That deadline is coming up at the end of September. Should they refuse to vote on these spending bills using that leverage until they see President Trump reverse deploying troops in the streets of D.C.?
Yes. I mean, first, that should be on the table. And I don't think we should be ruling that out. I think that Democrats in the Senate, the House, I mean, all of us should be united in using everything that we can do and all of our power to stop what Trump is doing right now, not just in D.C., but across the country. So absolutely, that should be on the table.
To stop what Donald Trump is doing, to stop Donald Trump from providing safe streets for the residents of the District of Columbia. 90%, 80 to 90% Democratic voters, and Donald Trump even cares about them. This lunatic, this communist congressman, says that we should shut the government down to stop Donald Trump from funding law enforcement activities in the District of Columbia, which is been rampaged and ravaged with crime. Is liberalism anything but a mental disorder? How does that make any sense? You know why they want to do that? Because if Donald Trump and Republicans are able to clean up Washington, D.C. and make it safe again, then they're going to have to admit for the 8 millionth time that Donald Trump was right. And they cannot stand that narrative. You can see them. They're literally saying things on television, on the radio, in print that are now the complete exact opposite of reality. Democrats, obviously, I'm sorry to say this. We used to kind of beat around the bush a little bit on this and say, well, it really seems like they don't much care about, people having more of their take-home pay, or they don't much care about safer streets. Or I think we can now say it. Democrats want America to be last. Look at the different examples we've seen just this very week. Donald Trump calls in all the European leaders into the White House along with Zelensky and talks about something that hasn't been talked about in over 3.5 years, ending the Russia-Ukrainian war. Look, Donald Trump has changed his tune on this, and Republicans have properly come along because this has now become what looks like a never-ending war of attrition, largely started because of the weakness of Barack Obama and Joe Biden when they were in the White House. Donald Trump at first was viewed very much as an isolationist on this. I don't want to get involved. This is not our war. It's not our fault. Donald Trump then realizes after being in office for about 8 months, this thing's not going away. And I'm not going to be able to pursue a lot of my other agenda and focus on a lot of other things until the Russians and the Ukrainians stop slaughtering each other every single day like they have been for the last 3.5 years. Donald Trump doesn't want this to go on for another 3.5 years. It's not bad. It's not good politics, but most importantly, it's not good for humanity. It's not good for the people of the planet Earth. And so Donald Trump is basically, without admitting it publicly, with his actions is saying, we're going to do something differently. So what we're going to do differently is we're going to try to get Vladimir Putin to the table. Donald Trump did what Joe Biden was not able to. He was able to get Putin to come to American soil to at least begin discussing the topic of ending the war. They haven't made any progress yet. And Donald Trump's admitted that. And he said the whole thing could blow up and fail. But he's trying. And he said the next step is going to be trilateral talks. So you got to give Trump credit for trying. And you know who's giving him credit? all these Euro-socialist European leaders who previously were very worried about Donald Trump 2.0 and what he may or may not do in office. Well, what he's providing for is an opportunity for Europe to become stronger. He's convinced them they need to spend more money on defense, and they're doing that. And the reward for them doing that is he brings them all to the White House and says, we're going to present a united front against Vladimir Putin, and we're going to try to bring this thing to a stop, a standstill, and then hopefully a resolution. Look, when you're settling something, I can tell you from my 20 years as a practicing lawyer, both sides are not going to be happy. That's the nature of a settlement. Each side is not going to get everything that he wants. That's the nature of a settlement. But the other nature of a settlement is, we always say in the legal world, if both sides are sort of unhappy, then it's probably good for everyone. And we hope to get that something out of the Russia-Ukrainian issue. Democrats, meanwhile, are rooting against everything I just described. Democrats are vociferously rooting against that. They're rooting against peace. They're rooting against America first. What would they have us do? Sit around like Joe Biden did, randomly just throw money into a black hole and have the Russians and Ukrainians continue to slaughter each other for what? Another 3.5 years? That obviously was going nowhere. At least Trump and Republicans are trying to do something differently, and we'll ultimately see if it works. How about on crime? We just had a long discussion on crime. What would Democrats rather have Donald Trump do? I guess nothing. I guess, quote, not interfere. Well, Republicans, Trump, Kash Patel, the FBI, not interfering has resulting in nothing but what? Bloodshed here on our streets. Do you see the common denominator here? Democrats would rather have the jihadis and the mujahideen and their progeny in Iran slaughtering everyone in the Middle East instead of having peace. They would rather have the Russians and Ukrainians slaughtering each other instead of peace. And apparently they would rather have Americans slaughtering each other on American streets in Democrat-run cities instead of pursuing peace. See the common denominators here? Democrats appear to be for violence, chaos, catastrophe, destruction, and death. And Donald Trump and Republicans seem to be the ones advocating for peace. Maybe that's why I think yesterday I saw it was not funny, but in a way it put a smile on my face. Like 57,000 Hindu monks signed a proclamation. These are people who never talk. They have a vow of silence. They chose one guy and he spoke and he said, "We want Donald Trump to get the Nobel Peace Prize." Isn't that incredible? It's really amazing indeed. Illegal immigration. What would Democrats have us do? Keep the border open? Let the slaughter on the southern border continue? Overwhelm all of our social services that they so much want to support financially through the American taxpayer? Continue to strain the system? Continue to have illegal aliens murdering, raping, and pillaging in our American cities? Continue to have Americans have their job opportunities taken away from them so illegal aliens can have them, voting in our elections, so on and so forth? No. Another 80-20 issue. And finally, this isn't really, well, I guess it is kind of America first, America last. The whole promotion of the trans cult. They continue. I just saw or heard three more stories today where Democrats are still advocating for boys to be playing in women's sports and destroying the hopes and dreams of young lady athletes. And that's another issue that Democrats appear to be, once again, on the wrong side of history on, and another issue where they seem to be advocating for America last. And that's the Speaker's Stump Speech for today. Chris, I could have gone on and on and on, obviously.
And everything that you said is the reason why their polling numbers are dropping like a rock, even though President Trump's polling numbers are low as well. Theirs are worse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're not taking advantage of the opportunities at all. And, look, we're plenty critical of Republicans and things that they do or do not do wrong. But when you look at what the Democrats are doing and advocating for, it just seems absolutely insane. We had an election last November where a lot of these issues were arguably on the ballot, and they don't seem to have changed their positions.
They're ran by their left-wing lunatic fringe base.
You got it. Hey, we're going to bring in friend of the show, Mark Mix, next. Excited to talk to him after a long time. President of the National Right to Work Legal Defense Fund. What's going on with litigation involving workers and union bosses? Well, Missouri and Minnesota are involved in this. We'll break it all down next on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. 1019 94.1 News Talk STL.
You're listening to Tim Jones and Chris Arps. from the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. Some really nice days ahead of us. Slightly below normal, but nice warm days. We'll wake up to Thursday, 67 degrees. So a little cooler in the morning. Not quite as humid during the day either. Thursday, partly cloudy and a high of 84 degrees. Normal high is 88. And on Friday, partly cloudy and a high of 86. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
All the information I need on the drive to work.
Mike Ferguson in the morning. I keep it on throughout the day, whether it's local, national, or something big that's happening overseas.
News, analysis, and opinion. St. Louis is #1 for conservative talk. News Talk STL.
I'm going to go see the fine docs and healthcare providers at Comprehensive Chiropractic in the next few days. I'm not sure. I can't remember who I'm seeing. I'm seeing, I'm either seeing Dr. Fader, Bentner, Gorman. I love all three of those guys. Dr. Fader, of course, been running Comprehensive Chiropractic, good friend of ours for many years, almost 2 decades now, I believe. Comprehensive Chiropractic Sports Performance, the premier chiropractic and sports performance facility in our region. Now, you don't got to be a super athlete to go to Comprehensive Chiropractic. You know what you have to be? You have to be a human being with aches and pains. That's it. And you are welcome in the front door. And let me tell you, I am here to swear by chiropractic. It has prevented and helped me it has helped me avoid any sort of surgical intervention. Because I hear, sometimes that works, sometimes that doesn't. The holistic care is something I prefer. Helps me feel better, helps me move better. And Comprehensive Chiropractic has kept me moving well, like I said, for decades now. Been seeing them since Doc Fader opened the place up. They can help you with nagging injuries, and I have them from time. I was just thinking about a nagging injury I had, and I was thinking about it because it's gone. Like I realized it's completely gone. I had this elbow tendonitis kind of stuff, like a golfer's elbow, tennis elbow kind of thing. And we did a series of treatment regimens on it. And after a few weeks, it got better and better and better. And now it's completely and utterly gone. It's fantastic. I'm back to 100%. They can help you with ankles and knees and lower body, upper body, neck, back, of course, and so much more. They've got the Studio Health and Wellness Center with Pilates and yoga classes. They have licensed massage therapists. That's a nice combo with the chiropractic care. And if you need like a whole overhaul, and who doesn't from time to time, they've got personal trainers at Comprehensive Chiropractic as well. Very reasonable in cost. It'll fit your schedule. And they have a lot of services as to nutritional needs as well. Top to bottom, one-stop shop, Comprehensive Chiropractic and Sports Performance. CChiropractic.com. CChiropractic.com. Comprehensive Chiropractic for all your comprehensive healthcare needs.
Hey, it's Susie Moore. If new flooring makes you think hassle, think again, because Michaels Flooring is changing the game. For over 30 years, Michaels has been locally owned and trusted for quality, variety, and amazing service. Whether it's carpet, hardwood, laminate, luxury vinyl, or ceramic tile, their expert team makes installing new floors exciting, not stressful. That's why customers keep coming back. Visit Michaels Flooring at St. Peter's, Starting Prairie, Creve Coeur, or online at igotfloored.com. That's igotfloored.com.
Hey, Jamie Allman here for my good friend Harry Parker and the ultimate seafood dining experience at Gulf Shores, GulfShoresRestaurantandGrill.com. Gulf Shores offering a unique dining experience with a vast, mouth-watering menu of all of your favorite delicious dishes, something for everyone's taste or palate. 3 convenient locations, Edwardville, Creve Coeur, and St. Peter's. Dine in, carry out. They have a food truck, too. Friendly staff, looking forward to seeing you, making your dining experience one that you will remember. Gulf Shores Restaurantandgrill.com.
Summer is here, and that means it's time to gear up at Whistle Pig Outdoors on Main in Troy. Mike Ferguson here for my friends at Whistle Pig Outdoors, family owned and operated by hunters who know their stuff. Beat the heat with premium Costa sunglasses and American-made grizzly coolers that keep everything ice cold. Upgrade your bow at their full-service archery shop. Expert technician on staff for Hoyt and Bear bows. Call 636-775-1110 or visit Main Street in Troy. Whistle Pig Outdoors, your year-round outdoor headquarters.
This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
You got me running, baby. You give me something way beyond revenue.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
You put the magic in me. I feel the magic when we do what we do.
was breaking news in just the last half hour or so. Big leadership changes are on the way to Target.
The head of the company is stepping down early next year. Another exec has already been tapped to take his place. The company saw a 21% drop in net income over the last 3 months. Target has seen flat or declining sales in 8 of the last 10 quarters.
And welcome back to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. A lot of issues plaguing corporate America these days, and some of them involve labor issues, union issues. We're going to talk to an expert on that. He's a friend of the station and the show, Mark Mix, president of the National Right to Work Legal Defense Foundation. Mark, great to have you back on with us. Thanks for joining the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show today.
Well, Tim and Chris, it's a great privilege to be on with you, and there's lots going on here. Tim, we've got a two for you. We've got a Minnesota case, I think, where you were a kid, and we got a Missouri case where now you're serving the public in media and formerly in the legislature. So we got a twofer for you.
Mark, you got a heck of a memory. I haven't talked to you in a long time. You remembered somehow that I was born in Edina, Minnesota. Yeah, indeed. So both states, Mark, have definitely an attachment to me. So, Mark, tell us, what is the 35,000 foot on this? This hasn't made a lot of the local news headlines here because, of course, it doesn't fit the narrative. We actually have workers who are challenging their union bosses, right?
Yeah, that's right, Tim. And this is not anything that would be new to you, because what we have here is union officials basically telling employees in Missouri, one over in Kansas City and one up in Minnesota, that they have to fund the union political campaigns with their forced fees. I mean, as we know, Missouri is not a right to work state, neither is Minnesota. So workers there can lose their jobs if they don't pay union dues or fees. And in these two cases, we've got a complete violation of one federal law, Supreme Court case back in 1963, and then a Supreme Court case we won that basically said workers could not be compelled to support political and ideological causes, which they oppose. The problem is they've got to be informed of this by the union, and the union has to give them information about what they're spending their money on, and these two unions will not do that.
Mark, I found very curious this so-called window periods when the union members can opt out. I bet you that window period is probably after the November elections and starts probably like in February, isn't it? I'm sure it's very strategic on that opt-out window.
Well, Chris, you're absolutely right. The union officials get to set that window period, and sometimes the window is closed, sometimes the window is painted black, and sometimes there's no window at all in a case like this. But you're right. Strategery is exactly what these people are up to when it comes to getting money to fund the campaigns that they want to support.
Indeed. Mark, want to go back a little bit in time. We had the famous case that came out of our sister state here involving the gentleman that went all the way to the Supreme Court. Can you remind me of his name?
Yeah, Mark Janus.
Exactly. Janus. Yes, of course. So Janus goes all the way to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court rules in favor of Mark Janus, and we basically have Janus rights that come out of that. Mark, I'll bet you so tell us about the result of that, and I'll bet the unions, they're not just automatically giving all the workers all these Janus rights now, right? And does this have anything to do with these two current cases?
Well, it does, and it doesn't in one case, Tim, because these are private sector employees. And the Janus case was primarily focused on government sector, public sector employees. We litigated that case starting in Illinois, went through the Seventh Circuit. We got our teeth kicked in the district court, and we got beat in the appellate court. But we made it to the U.S. Supreme Court on behalf of Mark Janus, who's a courageous individual that stood up and said, I don't want to support the political agendas of this union, the AFSCME union that represented him in Illinois. So the majority of the U.S. Supreme Court said two things. First, they said no government employee anywhere in America, and this means Missouri, it means California, it means New York, it means at any level of government, can be forced to pay union dues or fees to get or keep a job with government. That's huge. That's a right to work law for every government employee in America. The second thing they said, and this is where the bone still hurts in the throat, and that is that they said that the state must get an affirmative opt-in before they can take any money from anybody. And of course, California, New York, Connecticut, New Jersey, their legislatures got really busy leading up to the Janus case and immediately after the decision because they knew that we were going to win a First Amendment constitutional case. And they set the rules. Back to Chris's question, they set this window period. And frankly, they don't even give anyone information about the fact that you have to opt into this. And that's an issue in this case for these private sector workers. We're trying to make sure that once a worker says, stop taking my money for political and ideological causes, they don't have to reaffirm that every year. Because what happens in most places, the union say, well, you're back in and you got to opt out again. We believe that a worker should have to opt in before the union can get any of their money. And that's what these two cases are predicated on.
We've seen, of course, since Donald Trump was elected, that the blue-collar union vote has swayed more and more towards the Republicans. Have we seen the union bosses become more aggressive with these windows and opt-out periods since then?
Yeah, absolutely, Chris. And you only have to look at the legal docket coming out of the federal government unions, the American Federation of Government Employees, and the National Treasury's employee unions. They have filed so many lawsuits that they're creating an air conditioning system with revolving doors at the courthouse. And because they're opposing what Donald Trump's trying to do to reform labor policy for federal workers and for government employees in general. But yeah, what happened, Chris, and that's a great point, private sector union households, private sector union members clearly voted in a majority for Donald Trump for president. Now, I can't say the same thing about government employees, but you can say it. And that, to your point, Chris, has clarified kind of the position that union officials have to take is like all of a sudden they're sending all their money to one party. And in the case of the 2024 elections, for every $1 that Donald Trump got from a labor union's PAC, Kamala Harris got 272. Now, I'm a government school graduate, but I know that's close to like 99.5% of their money went to one party. And that's actually what the contest here is. They're spending that money on politics and ideological causes, which union members and many private sector union members now oppose. And so hopefully that will change the behavior of union officials, but I'm not holding my breath.
Mark, you just highlighted this disconnect that I run into all the time. I have a ton of friends who are union members here in the St. Louis region and across Missouri. I know they voted for Donald Trump. Many of them are voting for Republicans now up and down the ticket. But when it comes to the union issue, they don't seem to see the forest for the trees. And they don't seem to understand that, going right to work does not mean abolishing unions. It means putting everybody on a level playing field. And they also don't seem to have any response to my argument. Well, that's great that you love your union. I'm glad you love your union. I'm glad you think it provides a benefit to you, but you do know that your bosses are funding Democrats and progressive causes that I know you absolutely disagree with. So we still have this big disconnect, don't we, with these rank and file folks who have come our way on a lot of issues, but not all of them.
Yeah, Tim, and thanks again for your leadership on this as a speaker and as the majority leader and just a member of the House of Representatives in Missouri. You were fair and balanced about this issue. I think you came at it with a very reasonable approach, and you're exactly right. Nobody in Missouri can be stopped from joining a union, whether it's a right-to-work state or not. No one can be stopped from associating with the union if they choose to do so. No one can stop from giving their entire paycheck to a union if they choose to do so, but they can't be compelled and they can't lose their jobs over right to work. It's that simple. You explained it that way, and unfortunately politics gets in the way sometimes. But you're right. How these rank and file private sector Teamsters and steel workers and carpenters who are supporting an agenda that says, let's secure the border, let's stop boys playing girls sports, let's reduce taxes and reduce regulation. We're all in for that. But President Donald Trump did not campaign on expanding union boss power over workers by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, when he ran, he said he was totally in support of right to work. But union officials, on the other hand, are way on the other side of the canyon, politically, ideologically. But these workers are convinced that somehow if we give them the chance to hold union officials accountable to their political spending and their corruption and their extortion, and believe me, you got some of that in Missouri. We know that. Give them the chance to hold unions accountable by passing a right to work law. It doesn't stop anyone from joining a union, but allows them to hold union officials accountable for this type of behavior.
Mark, what do you say to those? And many of the union members here in St. Louis area are Republican. They vote the Second Amendment, very strong. But the argument that they make is that someone shouldn't be getting the benefits of the union without paying dues, and they have an issue with that. What would you say to that argument?
Well, I would have them go back to 1935 when the United States Congress passed what was known as the Wagner Act. And the Wagner Act basically said that the federal government was going to give union officials the power to control the labor workforce for private sector workers across the entire country. And when they did that in 1935, they also made the commitment to say, not only are we going to force everyone to be represented by the union and give unions exclusive monopoly bargaining power over every worker in a unionized workplace, we're going to make them pay for taking away their right to represent themselves and their association. Tim, I think we've talked about this before. Introducing legislation that says only represent the workers that want to be your members. Let's try that. Union officials know that won't work because they would have to deliver a product every month and convince people that joining the union and amplifying their voice through that representation would be beneficial. We think it would make unions stronger if they would do that, and they would prove to the workers that they can win at the bargaining table, they can win on the shop floor, and not necessarily have to win in Jefferson City or Washington, D.C. to maintain their power over workers. If they would give up that exclusive bargaining privilege and only represent the workers that want to be part of the union, we would have no problem whatsoever with the growth of the union movement or everyone joining a union for that matter, Chris.
Mark Mix, president of the National Right to Work Legal Defense Foundation, our guest here this afternoon. NRTW.org if you want to read more about everything we've been discussing, NRTW.org. So, Mark, back to the case where we started our discussion, these employees in Missouri and Minnesota challenging challenging the prohibition on window periods that traps non-members in full union dues payments. So, Mark, this is brand new, right? This is really fresh. This just began. Could you just explain to our listeners, like, what's the procedure? What happens next, possibly?
Yeah, well, these charges were filed with the National Labor Relations Board, and that's the 5-member board that, well, it actually was 3 members when it was created back in 1935, but it's the 5-member board that adjudicates private sector labor relations matters when it comes to unionization. So we filed the charge with the National Labor Relations Board. There is a region in Missouri where a regional director will assign someone to investigate the case. They will investigate the charge. Hopefully they'll have a hearing, and that we'll get an administrative law judge to rule in favor of these employees because, like I said at the beginning, they have actually violated a 1963 Supreme Court case called GM versus National Labor Relations Board that says you can't be forced to be a formal member of a union. You can be forced to pay up to 100% of dues, but you can't be forced to be a formal member anymore. So they violated that by not instructing these people and telling people they had to be members. And secondarily, they violated a Supreme Court case that we won back in 1988 called Beck versus Communication Workers of America that said you could get out of that political component, you could get out of that ideological component, but the union had to provide evidence of what they spent. In these cases, the union hasn't done that, and frankly, they are required to inform workers of their right to get out of this, and they haven't done that there. So unfortunately, we're still litigating a Supreme Court decision from 1988, but each time we do it, hopefully we'll win something more. And that opt-in, opt-out condition is really what's important in these 2 cases, Tim.
Indeed. Mark Mix, our guest here this afternoon. Mark, before we let you go, anything else you want to bring to our attention, national or regional news as to the right to work, the worker choice movement?
Well, there's a lot going on. We won a very interesting case well, we didn't win it, but we had the first legal case on it, the first legal theory, the SpaceX case that was handed down by the Fifth Circuit yesterday, I guess last night, that basically talked about upholding President Trump's ability to control the National Labor Relations Board, to be able to remove members of that board. This has been a very contentious battle since the beginning. Of course, Biden, when he came into office, he immediately fired the general counsel, who is the top lawyer for the National Labor Relations Board, the first time that had ever been done, and that was upheld. And now President Trump, we postured the theory that the executive of the country, the president of the United States, who's the one person accountable under Article 2, has to have the ability to control the federal government. That theory won the day in the Fifth Circuit in the Court of Appeals yesterday. And so President Trump's been vindicated in some of the moves he's made regarding federal agencies and their exercise of power that's outside the boundaries of their kind of statutory formation. So it's an exciting day on that front.
Yeah, it sounds familiar. They're challenging Trump's authority to do basically anything. So on this area and all others. Mark, thanks for everything. Thanks for what you and your organization have done for decades and continue to do. NRTW.org, the National Right to Work Legal Defense Foundation. Mark, great to talk to you again. We'll have you back again soon.
Thanks, Tim. Thanks, Chris.
Mark, you ever thought about being a DJ? You have a great DJ name, Mark Mix.
Well, I know. All these radio stations are named after me, too. WMIX, KMIX.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right.
Give that thought.
Chris, I appreciate that.
No problem.
Thank you, Mark. We'll talk to you again soon. That's Mark Mix there.
Mark Mix, yeah, on 101.9, 94.1.
He's kind of got the voice
radio,
for it.
yeah.
Kind of got the voice for it.
I'm Mark Mix.
NRTW.org. All right. Can you believe it? It's the end of the show, but not yet. 5:43 in the PM when Chris and I come back. Chris has got a bunch of stuff in his stack of stuff. And we will, of course, prepare you for Larry Connors USA, coming at you at 6:05. Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show, 101.9, 94.1, News Talk STL.
Like and subscribe to us on Rumble. News Talk STL.
I can never doubt you for too long. I can't see no reason. You're my kind of lover. My kind of lover. My kind of lover.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. Some really nice days ahead of us. Slightly below normal, but nice warm days. We'll wake up to Thursday, 67 degrees. So a little cooler in the morning. Not quite as humid during the day either. Thursday, partly cloudy and a high of 84 degrees. Normal high is 88. And on Friday, partly cloudy and a high of 86. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
The Vic Porcelli Show.
In anticipation of our Day of Remembrance, we will talk to Mark Schmitz, dad of Jared Schmitz, Thursday at 9:05.
Weekday mornings at 9 on News Talk STL.
I know you're always on a quest for some very special things for very special people in your life. A lot of special occasions come up in the fall, right? Wedding anniversaries and births and birthdays and all things of that sort. Newsteaders Fine Jewelers, that's your one-stop shop for all that. Create legacy items that your family will hand down for generations. WowDiamonds.com is their website because that's what you say when you see their diamonds. They've got beautiful, fantastic lab-grown and other diamonds as well, and they are spectacular. And you know, the Newsteaders difference is the Newsteader family running Newsteaders Fine Jewelers for decades and giving you honest jewelry solutions and giving you honest jewelry advice. I'm telling you, folks, I've been to a lot of different jewelry stores, and Newsteaders it sets itself apart on that. They're just, you're not going to get that level of service, that level of honesty at the sterile big box stores where, depending on which day you go in, you're going to talk to 12 different people. Not at Newsteaders. Richard Newsteader, he's still there. The family's all there, and they're there to help you find wonderful things for the wonderful people in your life. Yes, they have diamonds. WowDiamonds.com is the website. They've got more. Wedding and engagement rings, hand-engraved items. They can do that because Richard is a master engraver. Not a lost art here in St. Louis. 2961 Daughtery Ferry Road, to be exact. 2 miles west of 270, right in the heart of the county of St. Louis. Pendants, earrings, gemstones. Did you know they do repairs in Newsteaders? They can repair anything, just about anything. They can do appraisals. They've done so much work for me. They've provided me so many wonderful things for my beautiful wife, Suzanne, and for other members of my family. And many people here at News Talk STL have experienced the Newsteaders difference in buying special things for the special people in your life as well. Tell them hello from us when you go in and say, hey, News Talk STL sent me. They love that. They love when Jamie and I send folks into them. So you should go experience the Newsteaders difference today. Newsteaders Fine Jewelers, WowDiamonds.com. Newsteaders Fine Jewelers, WowDiamonds.com.
Dude, this house is perfect. Crumbs everywhere, sticky counters. I've already texted the colonies.
Sweet, I'll bring my 500 cousins. This'll be the biggest ant rager of the summer.
Let's party! Wait, oh, what's that sound? Oh, no, it's those trucks with the green wheels. Party's over, man. Party's over.
This is Derek, the owner of All Solutions Pest Control. We'd love to help you out. Give us a call today for a free estimate at 636-486-7888.
If a pest-free home is your goal, call All Solutions Pest Control.
Tony Colombo here for Gutter Pros, your all-in-one gutter service team that brings years of experience and quality that's affordable right to your doorstep. We discovered Gutter Pros a few years ago when we bought our home and inherited a gutter issue that was on the road to becoming a potentially big problem, but thanks to Gutter Pros was stopped before causing any major damage. They've also repaired the siding on our home because along with gutter repair, gutter installation, and leaf protection, the Gutter Pros are also the best for siding repair and installation. Learn about all the ways Gutter Pros can help your home at gutterpros.com.
This is Mark Harder with RE/MAX Results, the #1 RE/MAX franchise in the region. As a licensed real estate broker with RE/MAX Results for over 20 years, I've seen the ups and downs of many real estate markets, including the one we're in right now. With the spring market in full swing, now is the time to leap into the buying or selling of your home. Someday is not a day. Today is the day to make your move. Call me at 314-852-8933 or email me at markhardersells@gmail.com.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
We had a terrible thing happen in St. Lucie County where you had an illegal alien who was driving this big tractor truck and decided to try to do a U-turn where they have the official use only. Those are little gaps in the highway for highway patrol and law enforcement. You had a car coming that ran into it and 3 Floridians were killed. He fled to California, obviously sanctuary state. He was able to be detained in California. And so today I'm sending Florida's new lieutenant governor. And tomorrow morning, he is going to take possession of this illegal alien, extradite him back to the state of Florida, and we're going to throw the book at him.
549 on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show.
Man.
And Tim, like you stated in the speaker's stump speech, this is an 80-20 issue. And you have the Democrats clamoring for immigrants' rights, protesting in the streets, causing mayhem. You know, I'm surprised if the mainstream media even talks about this case. Will they call him an illegal immigrant? Will they continue to say immigrant as they do for these people?
It's amazing. And liberals have now decided that basic aspects of humanitarianism, like being safe, right? Being safe, being secure, living in peace, not being in constant danger from forces beyond your control. Democrats, Chris, have now decided that that's a racist, totalitarian concept. I mean, they're just crazy people.
And speaking of racism, Tim, the media has done a great job of convincing America and Americans and Black people in particular that the country is racist. This is a Gallup poll. It says that 64% of American adults say that racism against Black people is widespread in the United States, on par with data from Gallup's last reading in 2021. Meanwhile, the share who say there is widespread racism against white people is at 29%. So this, according to this poll, things haven't changed much from 1964 or the pre-segregation area.
Wow.
So pretty sad. All right, let's lighten it up a little bit. We talked about a couple of weeks ago how the NFL Network has been bought by ESPN. They announced today that they are also buying MLB TV. It says here cable's MLB Network is separate, isn't being sold. Our own Joey V has some experience with MLB TV. Joey, what were you calling balls and strikes behind the plate? What were you doing?
Well, our engineer for the station, Gino, he has got a hookup with Sirius XM. So he'll go and do live broadcasts where they need radio technology, wireless microphones, and he'll send the signal back to Sirius XM and broadcast it. And he was working with MLB Radio. And of course, we went to the World Series a couple times together. And I would see the people doing their live hits right there on the field. And I would just walk in the back of their camera shots as much as I could. So I think
as much as I could.
Yeah, I think this Justin Verlander guy, maybe he had a show on MLB Network or something. I walked in his shot and I just stood there, looked like an idiot, and then I found the clip later and put it up on my Instagram. So I'm a bit of an MLB TV star.
Apparently you are.
You need to post some of that stuff on the website. Let's see it. Seriously.
Gino's got a lot of cool rackets, doesn't he?
Yeah, we went to Houston both years, and I could hear the trash cans banging loud and clear that second year because that's when they won the World Series. The first year the Braves won.
Was that the cheat year?
Every year's a cheat year.
every year's a cheat year.
Exactly. All right, Joey, we're gonna finish up here with a couple of movies that I saw that are coming out. I want to get your thoughts on this. Jennifer Lopez, of course, her name was mentioned in the P. Diddy affair. Some were alleging that she was there when all of these terrible things were occurring. She seems to have come out pretty unscathed. Joey, she is starring in a stunning musical comeback, an adaptation of Kiss of the Spider Woman, which is directed by Bill Condon. It's set for a theatrical release October 10th, 2025. The film combines gritty prison drama with fantasy musical sequences. Early festival buzz highlights Tuna Tua's performance, though reviews remain mixed. So, Joy, is this the correct role for Jennifer Lopez, and what does this do for her career?
I've always heard that she's actually not a good singer.
She's not,
and she gets auto-tuned, and
she's not a very good actress.
She doesn't write her own songs. I mean, she was probably a good dancer to get on in Living Color because I think she was a fly girl back in the day. So it's weird that she's just stuck around this long.
Because she's cute.
Because she's also got a reputation as being mean.
Yeah.
I mean, if you ask Ben Affleck, she's really mean.
Or Brad Pitt, right?
She dates A-list people, and she's an attractive woman. I mean, I think that helps with the lack of acting and singing talent.
And I've never seen this musical. I've never read this book, Kiss of the Spider Woman. So I guess that's a good thing for her to do.
Are you going to be on the list for this when this comes October? And that's pretty quick, isn't it, to make a movie? Or has this been in the works? How do you come out with a movie in October 2025? That's like 3 months away.
I'm not sure. I know
How are
Bill
they doing
Condon's
this?
really famous for making musicals. Wasn't he the one that did Chicago?
You're
So I
asking
mean,
the wrong person.
this could work out, but I have not had a single memory come to mind of Kiss of the Spider Woman being at the Fox or the Muni or anything.
I've heard of it. That's about as much as far as I can go. Tim,
I can't help
You're
ya.
a musical guy. Have you seen this?
I've heard of it.
No.
I don't think I've ever seen it. It's a pretty famous deal, but
Yeah,
one
I've heard
that
of
the three of us haven't seen. Yeah.
Now, also, too, when I was growing up in the early 70s, one of my favorite cartoons was the Archies. Sugar, Sugar, Honey, Honey. I love that cartoon. I had a cousin whose name was Reggie. Of course, Reggie was one of the characters in the Archies. Tim and Joy, according to what I'm reading here, Archie is going live action. Universal Pictures is developing a live action Archie movie produced by Phil Lord and Christopher Miller with a screenplay from comic writer Tom King.
Lord and Miller,
Limited.
those
What
are
do
good
you
names
think?
to be hitching your wagon to. They're known for the Lego movie, so they have some credentials. You know, I think they did 21 and 22 Jump Street as
But can
well.
this generation relate to the Archies? I mean, that's a 60s, 70s.
There's been no
cartoon.
remakes since,
Exactly.
you know what I mean?
When's the last time you've watched an Archie cartoon?
When we were little ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Joy,
Yeah.
did you watch Archie?
I didn't really watch Archie that much, but
Yeah.
when we had the music show, we played Bang Shang-a-Lang, and that's a great song. It's just sound effects basically, and then Sugar Sugar. I mean, that's
Sure,
a classic.
that's a classic, and that I think was released, wasn't it? And as a single, and got, I don't know if it did #1, but
We got to get Ron Clutho on to just tell us the history of the Archies. He is an expert at that
Is he
stuff.
really?
Yeah, of course.
He's a big Archie fan.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm. Indeed.
something he's good.
I know they do the soap opera on the CW. The Riverdale, that is a live action Archie's based soap opera that the kids are into. So I guess this is just the next step. for
I think
that.
Archie needs to be updated. And I hate to play the race card. You know, I'm not into that. But, you know, I talked about how the Breakfast Club needed a black character. I think the Archies needed a black character. Somebody play the black character, play the bongos or the drums. Or
Well, you
something.
want everybody to watch it. So you got to have somebody, you got to have a person in there to get everybody to watch it. you know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, Joy, you said that August is usually a slow period. You got any movies coming up that you are going to see or something we should be expecting? Any horror movies in particular?
Well, I will tell you it's slow because the kids go back to school. So
Oh,
you
okay.
don't have people going to the movies 7 days a week. So it's this time now until the Halloween movies start coming out
Mhm.
and the Oscar movies. But since you guys were in Israel and I didn't get to talk about weapons, I'm going to talk about weapons this Friday
All right.
because it is #1 again this week. and
Weapons?
it's one of my top movies of the year. I know it's going to be in my top 5. So I want to talk about weapons with you guys on Friday.
Okay.
It has made a ton of money.
Mhm.
And if you ain't seen it, then you ain't nothing.
Will there
You
be
stupid.
will there be a Star Wars movie this December?
No, I think they're really holding back on the Star Wars
All right,
stuff.
because there was like 3 years in a row there. You know, I saw him in New York when we visited.
You know, I
3
keep
Star Wars
hearing
movies.
Andor is the best show ever to watch, and I still have no motivation to watch that. I should.
All right. Larry Connors USA is up next. Great show. Larry's going to talk about the details of a cover-up of DC crime numbers, legacy media hiding the story of a woman who posted that she wanted to kill Trump. We talked about that. Larry's going to explore more. You've been listening to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show on 1019 941 News Talk STL. Drive safe and have a great evening.
At Tango Argentina Food, it's all about love and passion for authentic Argentinian cuisine. Since 2000, we've grown from 1 empanada at local festivals to 18 delicious varieties using traditional family recipes and ingredients imported directly from Argentina. Enjoy beef, chicken, veggie empanadas, milanesas, weekend specials, and Stella's homemade dulce de leche. Watch soccer games on our big screen while sipping imported Argentine wine. Visit our expanded West Clay location in St. Charles or get frozen empanadas online at tangoargentinafood.com.
Jamie Allman here with the Allman Report. Pleased to be with Jordan Rosenblum. Google the bagel loan. That's what it's all about. Jordan, tell me about purchasing a home, brother.
Purchasing a home right now, it's a tough market. You're going to see a lot of competition. On the bagel loan that we have, you're going to have no closing costs, no title fees, no appraisal fees, no lender fees. Saves an average client almost $4,000 on a transaction. Customer service, unbelievable. Text, call anytime.
As I know, as a real estate agent, Google the bagel loan. Google the bagel loan, folks.
NMLS number 226715.
JC's Wayback Machine.
In 1991, we took a busload of listeners to Dyersville, Iowa. You'll go on that trip to the Field of Dreams, too. The A-list interview is with a guy who's here for a show Saturday night, Alice Cooper, David Gilmour, and Roger Waters with some unplugged Pink Floyd, plus great tunes from the 90s, 80s, and 70s that don't get played on St. Louis radio. All brought to you by the Weber Automotive Group.
It's JC's Wayback Machine. Every Saturday night, 6 to 9. On News Talk STL.
Great patio season to enjoy any of the Cafe Napoli locations. How about the Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta in Chesterfield? Enjoying coal-fired pizza, nothing else like it. Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta in Chesterfield. A few doors down, Lit Cigar Lounge, where you can enjoy premium cigars and whiskeys. Check the Lit Cigar Lounge Facebook for details, plus gift cards for friends. I'll see you at